Of agenda. A motion. All right. All in favor? All right, delegations. We scheduled delegations. 2. Who wants to, or Renee? Renee's first. Renee Charbonneau. Sorry, did I pronounce that properly?
You did it well.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm just going to hand you these so that you can pass them around. Yes, I think they're important for you to see. There's a note there too. The little red button.
And we're very official here, so if you could introduce yourself and welcome. Welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you.
My name is Renee Charbonneau. I'm the Executive Director of the Canadian Motorcycle Tourism Association and the project lead for Veterans Memorial Gardens. A lot of people have asked me why a motorcycle tourism association would be undertaking a project like this. I was born on the Armed Forces base in Fort Churchill, Manitoba. I am the daughter of 2 veterans. Both my mom and dad served. And I've been a 17-year member of the Canadian Army Veterans Motorcycle Units. Very tightly, connected in the military, even though I never enlisted. When you're a military kid, that just never seems to go away, and all your friends tend to be military in some way. So one of the reasons we took this on is because of a lot of these veterans, we understood that we needed a place for them to gather, to be able to remember their fallen comrades. And through the discussions, this project came to be, working with the Army-Navy Club and the Legion. And so Veterans Memorial Gardens has 3 basic purposes, if you will. And the first purpose, of course, is to honor and remember our killed in action soldiers and the Silver Cross families. That we know of so far through the research we've done in conjunction with the National Wall of Remembrance, the Canadian Fallen Heroes Foundation, the Canadian War Graves Memorials, and the Commonwealth War Graves Memorials. We've been able to unearth some 320 killed in action soldiers from this region, from East MD Opportunity to the BC border and from Grande Cache to the Northwest Territories. The reason we chose that specific area to identify and to tell these stories is because that's Region 1 of the Royal Canadian Legion. 18 legions make up Region 1, and that's their boundaries. So in doing that, we wanted to make sure that we were really focusing in on every soldier and helping our youth, because of the soldiers of today and the job they've done, a lot of our youth have no clue what war really is. It's such a vague concept. So we wanted to be able to tell these stories of the killed in action soldiers and their Silver Cross families and the sacrifice to help educate our children and our new citizens in particular. And then, of course, to give soldiers and their Silver Cross families a place of solace, a place to heal. And that nowhere has that been more evident for me as the project lead than with the Indigenous veterans and our Métis veterans. We held our very first ceremony, if you will, for Indigenous Veterans Day on November 8th last year. And for those people, those veterans that came, there were 80 people that came for our first ceremony in minus 26 weather, and they came from quite a ways away, some of them. The healing that started because of the recognition and honor that their soldiers are getting. See, being a military kid, I didn't realize there was any difference in any soldiers. But the more I've done the research for this project, the more I realize just exactly what our Indigenous and Métis soldiers gave up compared to anybody else. Did you know that until 1995, under the Indian Act, it was illegal for an Indigenous person to lay a wreath at a cenotaph? These soldiers were treated as equals in the military, but when they came home, the governments of the day, the powers that be of the day, and the religious leaders of the day chose to divide and conquer. Their attitude was, we're going to beat the heathen out of them. And unfortunately, that mentality is what they came home to. We had Tommy Prince from Manitoba, who basically had to re-enlist in the Korean War and still ended up dying a homeless drunk because he had no place to go. He wasn't allowed back on his reserve because he was Indigenous and he'd been gone longer than 4 years, and under the Indian Act, that stripped them of all of their legal rights. And if they bettered themselves as a soldier, so if they were a farmer, and in the armed forces they gained a trade, they lost their status, and the Indian manager was not allowed to let them back on the reserve. So these Indigenous soldiers gave up an enormous amount, and it's really proving to be a very healing thing for them and for the rest of us to learn about what they've gone through. And these gardens are going to give kids and all kinds of people the opportunity to do the same and to learn these stories and maybe help our communities and our country find a good path forward, because it's their future, but it's our past. And if we forget where we came from, we're going to lose our way as a country. At least that's my personal feelings. So we're looking towards building a program delivery building. That building will basically, it's a 1,400 square foot, 24 by 60 shack on skids. It's going to be filled with shadow boxes and all kinds of regional artifacts. We intend with the Loyal Edmonton Regiment Museum to be holding kind of like antique roadshow type of things so people can bring their soldiers' medals and learn about them. We want to make it a real place of education and learning. The Loyal Edmonton Regiment Museum is creating for us, we won a SIP grant. And through the help, we are creating what we're calling a day in the life of a Northwest Alberta soldier. This program is a kickoff, a white label version of the regiment's program, Operation Project Soldier, geared towards grade 4 to 6, because that's an age when they're really starting to understand remembrance, service, mortality. All of these things are coming to light from grades 4 to 6. So this program has been already vetted by the Alberta Teachers Association and the province, and we are going to have a white label version that will focus in on Northwest Alberta. So they're taking some of the different regional killed in action soldiers that were Loyal Edmonton Regiment members and 49th Battalion members in World War I, and they're helping us drill down into that to make this more indicative of our region as opposed to Edmonton or central Alberta. The gardens themselves are going to be broken into 8 different gardens inside of a big walkway. The outer walkway is Canada at War and Peace. It's the history of our region and the different things that transpired to cause war, to be of times of peace, and how we as a country dealt with that. And then the individual gardens will host all of these different memorial panels, like the ones you're seeing. And they're broken up into clusters. So we have a walkway and gardens devoted to the Indigenous and Inuit soldiers. We have another one dedicated to the Métis soldiers, one for the Loyal Edmonton Regiment and Army Training Base 132 Grand Prairie, which is where a lot of the Army soldiers went for their training from this region. Another walkway dedicated to all of the 18 legions of our region. So each legion has donated towards the Afghanistan War Monument already. And we're making a panel that tells a little bit about their history And then we're engaging the Legions for other remembrance objects for the building, etc. later. We've got a garden that will be dedicated to the cadet programs of this entire region, and the RCMP, which is the 1st Battalion of the Canadian Forces. And so we're working right now with K Division to identify all of the local and regional Killed in Action RCMP officers. We're having another garden dedicated to the animals of war so that kids especially can understand the roles that horses, donkeys, mules, birds, etc. played in keeping soldiers safe and entertained. And then another garden, it's going to be called the Tranquility Garden, but it's to honor the soldiers of suicide. Lise Charon died about 18 months ago of cancer, but she is the lady, she was a member of the same motorcycle club that I'm part of, the Canadian Army Veterans. And she was responsible for having Beechwood Cemetery. They planted a tree and dedicated a rock with a big plaque on it to honor the soldiers of suicide, and they do a vigil there every year. Our gardens have already been adopted by the Dutch Reformed Church, and they intend to be doing Christmas vigils just like they do in Holland to teach their children to be that same giving person that they are in Holland. So we're really grateful for that. I'm going to skip over a little bit on the memorial panels because you've seen them. The panels that will be done for the Indigenous soldiers and Métis soldiers will be translated into either Cree, Michif, Dene, or Beaver, depending on what they spoke. We've already found a Cree translator, which is a really good thing because Cree is $22.50 per letter to translate. One panel that size would cost $4,000. So we've gotten a free Cree translator through the Friendship Center in Grand Prairie. We're working on with the Michif Cultural Society in St. Albert, and they are going to do our translations for anyone who spoke Michif. And then there's a lady who can translate Dene for me out of Fairview. So the only one I'm still looking for and struggling with is Beaver, but we are working at finding that person. So the whole idea, like I said, is for us to honor and remember all of the sacrifices of our regional Killed in Action soldiers, and more importantly, their Silver Cross families. Because for every soldier, you've got at least 2 families that have been decimated. Because you've got the family they married into, most cases, and the family that they were born into, and they're both hurting. And even now, generations later, a lot of them are still hurting. So to that end, we're working, as I said, with the Loyal Edmonton Regiment to create an educational program. And that program will have 3 copies. They're in military kits, and we'll be able to ship them to the regional schools. So we'll keep one back in Grand Prairie to be able to serve Beaver Lodge and Sexsmith and that region, but we will have 2 kits that we can send out to other communities whose schools would like their kids to take part in this. So, and that is basically my presentation. There are 28 Killed in Action soldiers from Big Lakes County. 18 of them are from right here in High Prairie, 2 of them here. We have 3 that we still need stories and photos for that we're working on. And then there are 10 others from the little communities like Sucker Creek and Anilda, thank you. So we're working on all of those stories, and like I said, when you see this with the Commonwealth War Graves, all of these people have come together to help us with this project. One of the things that we've identified with this project is that when we're done, it will be duplicable in other counties and communities. There's a lot of help out there to make these kinds of things happen. And so at some point in the future, if other communities would like to do something like this, we will be in a position where we can also help them do something a little bit more local. In the meantime, being able to impact all of those kids, that's my goal. I really want to teach these kids what service and sacrifice really means. This day and age, they're not being taught that enough. And I believe that when you're in service to someone else, that's when your life is the richest. So this is my mission, and I want to thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much, Renee. Any questions for her? Question? Go ahead.
What was the total cost of the project, if there was none?
The total cost of the project over 5 years with what we're doing is going to be just under $1 million.
Okay.
We've already got the Afghanistan War Monument, and I don't know if you remember seeing the package that I emailed out, but that is the actual monument with the sunset in it. So there are all 158 killed in action soldiers' names on that monument. On the concrete pad that goes around, that monument sits on, there are 4 memorials. 3 of them are loyal Edmonton Regiment soldiers that were killed in Afghanistan, and 1 is a soldier from Grand Prairie that was killed. His name was Master Corporal Timothy Wilson with the 2 PPCLI out of Manitoba. But he was originally born in Grand Prairie. And so there's the 4, and then we have the 4 solar street lights, 16 feet high. They kind of, at night, it's really beautiful, and you walk in under a miniature St. Louis Peace Arch. So when you first walk into the gardens, once this is completed, there'll be mortar shells on either side of the arch, and you'll walk from the war into the peace zone, so to speak, through the Peace Arch, and then into the gardens and be able to walk around. We have, starting in September, we'll be planting our first fruit trees, shrubs and trees, so cherries, crab apples, saskatoons, haskups, things that we can let the kids. Hillside is a very depressed community, and it needs a central hub, if you will. And so a lot of these are low-income families that live there, and our goal is, of course, to help infiltrate those kids too and be able to engage them and get them involved in something a little bit more than vandalism, which is unfortunately what we've experienced with the monument. So, you know, once our fencing and everything goes in and the area is secure, we'll be able to control how we engage the kids, and that's going to be very important in the future.
All right. Well, thank you again, Renee.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and I hope you'll consider supporting our project in some way or another. You know, we have a lot on that list of different things that we would like support for. Everything from $275 to sponsor a fruit tree to, you know, $6,500 for a black marble bench that's all encapsulated and it allows for 3 lines of text and a logo. And those are $6,500 they're quite substantial. And then we have the memorial panels themselves. We have, I think it's 18 for High Prairie region that still need sponsorship. So there's no shortage of things that your town can put their stamp on and be represented in those gardens in some way. We have lots of different sponsorship packages, lots of ways that we will honor any kind of sponsorship. We just really want the engagement from the communities, and we want the opportunity to be able to come back in 6 to 8 months when our programs are ready and be able to say, okay, here they are, can we get them into these schools, right? And then the final thing that we're doing is working with an Indigenous videographer. He just finished winning the TELUS Indigenous Producers Award. His name is Len Morissette from CIA Solutions. And with his assistance, we are going to be capturing the oral stories of Indigenous killed in action soldiers from knowledge keepers, elders, and family members, as well as some stories from soldiers that returned, our veterans. Because Indigenous people do all oral stories, and very little of their history is actually written down in their genre, their own voices. So we're going to be doing those kinds of things, and that in itself is going to be a huge part of these gardens. So one of the interactive things that'll happen in 3 years' time when we apply to the war museums, we're going to be able to, the garden will be like this, and you'll be able to touch on a picture on the website, this point over here, and this soldier's memorial will come up. Go over here, do the same sort of thing. So even if your loved one is killed in action and represented in our gardens, even if you're in Newfoundland, you're going to be able to do a virtual walk through the gardens and be able to see all of our sponsors are well represented there. We have lots of video. So if you have any other questions or ideas, please visit motorcycletourism.ca and look at our projects. The Indigenous Veterans Day, I can't tell you how much that has been meaning to our Indigenous soldiers. I don't have the words. Every time I get to this point in the conversation about it, I choke up, because the stories I've read of what they sacrificed, just the name of our documentary that we're filming is called True Patriot Love, Service and Sacrifice Through the Eyes of our Indigenous and Métis Soldiers and their families. So that's a really big integral part of what we're doing. And again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you again.
Thank you again, Renee. All right, for our second scheduled delegation, Aaron Froment. Welcome, sir.
So my name's Aaron Froment.
You just press the button, please.
Okay, my name's Aaron Froment. I'm just here for a new ball hockey league that we're wanting to start up. We'll be running basically age 4 all the way up through midget age, and potentially an adult league, as there seems to be a lot of interest in that as well. So we'll be running, the plan would be to run on alternate nights from baseball and soccer. At the younger age, we'll probably just run 1 day a week, depending on the number of registered kids we get at the maybe 9, 10 and up level. We'll look at 1 to 2 nights a week and just kind of do a little 3-on-3 cross ice. Oh, there's no ice, but type thing, because running an entire length of that thing on 3-on-3, these kids will be sleeping for 2 days afterwards. But then we can also have 2 games going on at one time too, right? It's just, we started it in Slave, and it actually went over extremely well there. You get kids out in the summer having fun again, off the street playing. And we were just looking at baseball there. Baseball registration, once you get past T-ball, you're looking at $100 to register kids. Our goal is to keep at the max about $40 to $45. 35 to 40 is kind of where we're shooting at for registration price. Then all the kids need basically is a helmet, stick, gloves, which most of these kids already have, because most of them will be playing ice hockey. But we will have some spare stuff there, so if there are kids that want to play that their parents can't afford the helmet and the gloves and stuff like that, we'll have spare equipment. I'm going to be getting in touch with the kids sport program in Slave, and that I know they've got a locker room full of stuff there that they haven't given out in probably 1.5 years, 2 years. So I'm sure that I can get some of that stuff sent down. I guess on the bright side, I'm not here asking you guys for any money. It's always a good thing. But what we are looking at is I do have to go out and buy road hockey goalie equipment. And I'll need probably 3 to 4 sets in each kind of height category. So like we're looking at probably $3,000 to $4,000 in that. We'll need balls. I know there's Brian has some in that. Okay, that's so came out wrong. Is this being recorded by any chance?
Yes, it is. And our scribe over there just made a comment. I saw it.
I can see the headline now.
I just want to know what Brian is. Yeah.
We have 3 Brians.
We have 3 Brians.
I'm gonna go with all 3 just so I don't piss anybody off. So yeah, there is a lot of upfront cost. After this year though, going into every year moving on, $35 to $40 registration will easily cover any facility rental fees that we have. So basically what we're looking for this year is to see if there's either we can get a really good discount, or it would be even better if we could maybe even see if we could get just the rental fees waived for our first year, so we can get up and going. Would be our big thing. We're looking at running May and June, so we'll be running 2 months. Sorry. The registration fee will cover obviously the ball hockey itself, and then a year-end wind-up party. So everybody can just kind of get together, and then something to do before school ends.
Go ahead, Councilor Long.
To Councilor Gilroy, all the sports equipment that you were able to allocate, hockey equipment, all that stuff, and then Jeff had it stored at the Southeast News. Where did that go, and could we utilize that?
That's gone.
That's gone?
I was actually going to make a suggestion that the new committee that took that over is headed by Ricky Dumont and Jimmy McLean, and they can actually, talking about them, they said that if you need any equipment, they will talk to Sports Central for you,
Okay.
which is a nonprofit out of Edmonton, and they might be able to hook you up with all sorts of equipment, because the equipment we received apparently was given to all the Métis and First Nation people, because people around here didn't seem to be rushing to grab it quickly. And so that's one where all you'd have to do is sign out equipment to the kids, get it back, and then they replace their good used equipment with good used equipment.
Yeah.
So please talk to Ricky or Jimmy. I can't think of the third gentleman's name at the time, but those two should be able to hook you up with equipment and keep that cost down.
Okay.
Good, Brian.
In discussion with Aaron, he had concerns about the cost of a rental of the facilities. So what I did is I asked Lori Matthews, the recreation director, to take it back to the recreation committee to discuss the fees, and then we can go from there with recommendations out of there to go back to each council, because the councils will have to provide. So
Yeah, it was actually, I was scheduled to be at the MD tomorrow, but that ended up they canceled that. When they found out that we're not really asking for any money, we're just looking at some help with the rental costs for the first year. And they said that because they knew I was coming in front of you guys, and that they are equally represented on the recreation board, that they would have all their information based off of me being here and the recreation board's talk. So kind of saves me from having to repeat myself tomorrow, I guess. So
Don't worry, there are no Brian's over there.
and they'll really be wondering what I'm talking about.
I have a question. So you say it's a league, so are you looking at organizing and going out of town, or it's just an internal league like within itself?
I think for the first year, we'll definitely just be looking at we'll be looking at running it as just a local league. I do know Grand Prairie has quite a large indoor ball one. So whether or not in the future we add in a ball hockey tournament here, which I would actually like to do to kick off the year this year at the last weekend of April. Because like I said, Slave Lake has one, so we can invite teams from there. Because I don't know how familiar a lot of you are with ball hockey. There used to be a very, very large ball hockey tournament in Edmonton that went every single year. Last year was the first year that they haven't done it, just due to the economy and supposedly. But they canceled it all across Canada. So like Slave last year, they were looking for places to go to do tournaments. So I would love to be able to do one here, even later on in the year, and have both arenas going. And if it's really nice, why not move one outside? Have a game or two going on in the parking lot, have concession stands going up. It's going to bring other teams from like Grand Prairie, Slave Lake, surrounding communities to High Prairie, which is never a bad thing when you can bring other people to town, whether it's for overnight or for a day, right? So hopefully that answers the question.
Thank you. What about insurance, stuff like that? Are you guys looking at?
Every parent is going to have to sign a waiver.
Okay.
Just with part of registration.
Yeah.
So, and like kids will not be allowed on, it'll be the same as ice hockey. If you're under the age of 18, or if you're playing in that midget group, I don't care if you're 18 or not, you have to have a full cage on.
Yeah.
You have to have gloves, shin pads, and that type of stuff. So.
Excellent. Any other questions, everyone? I think it sounds like a great idea. Thank you, Aaron, for bringing that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night, guys.
Yeah. Thank you again.
I'll check with Brian later. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Oh. Okay. Sorry about that. All right.
Are we adjourned yet?
Looking for any public delegations? No public delegations? Chris, are you a public delegation? Okay, we'll go on to Protective Services. Peace Officers Report. Got a motion? Michael?
That council received the Senior Peace Officers February 2019 report for information.
Go ahead, Brett.
Alan was in actually working this morning till early this afternoon, and then he went home sick, or he would have been here to answer any questions. So if you have any questions, you can direct them to me, and I can forward them on to Alan, and he can get back to council to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, questions? Go ahead, Councilor Stenhouse.
My question is, with this, with the parking bylaws, I read in here where they're having trouble with these vehicles on the streets for the snow removal. What is the issue? Are we not advertising well enough, or what seems to be the problem with these vehicles? I did notice a vehicle down the street that had a tag on it for almost a week before it was removed. So what's the problem?
I talked to him a bit about that, and he said lots of it was because of the extreme cold weather that we had, and he had tagged some, and people had tried to get them started, but they weren't plugged in, and he said there were some issues with that. And basically, they give them so many days before they will respond. Like, they don't, if they tag them one day, they don't go back the next day to see if they're moved. You know, they give them a bit of a grace period, so
No,
they're trying to work with the residents too, so.
Yeah, no, what I mean is, are we, like, for snow clearing, are we not getting the message across to get your vehicles off that snow route?
No, we don't. Because our snow removal is so, like, automatic. I would guess to say that if we do get a dump of snow, the guys are out cleaning, so to advertise and that would, it's just not gonna work for us, so.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Councilor Gilroy.
I was just noticing in the report that they're finally going to consider putting an application for the crosswalk signs at the skateboard park. And I was noticing that that was originally brought forward at a meeting December 5th, 2017. No, I was looking it up because I was the one that made the motion back in that day, so, and I saw it in the report there. So it's nice to see that eventually we're able to get some of these things done.
I was gonna bring that up at the time of the action list, because Alan had come and spoke to me, and they did find a grant for that. And transportation wanted to know some questions as to who was installing and maintaining them once when they were put in. And I think he's looking at solar panel lighting with a push button. And he said the cost is approximately $8,000 for the 2 lights, crosswalk lights. So it sounded like it was a go. I basically told him once when they were in, we would look after them and maintain them as a municipality. So they would be our lights. So, but I did have it in action list.
I did want to make note that that the peace officers did come in a timely manner when we needed them a couple weeks ago, when there was an accident at our corner, and we needed to get the damaged vehicle off our property so that AA wouldn't damage it more by accident. And so I appreciated the quick work of our peace officers in getting that vehicle moved.
Thank you, Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
Just further, when I talked to Alan before he left to go home today, he said that the second round of notices have been sent out for the issuance of dog license. He said they had sent around a notices out, people come in and pay, but then they sent out a second notice. So they're following up with that right now.
Just one more question.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Councilor.
I'm assuming that since it's a bylaw issue, what can our bylaw officer do to people who, or what can the town do for those who have not been able to transition well to our new garbage situation and instead have their old bins filled with garbage because it's starting to warm up? And so can you ask Alan or to ask what we can actually do about that so that maybe we can figure some way to get rid of some of the garbage before it gets,
I did talk to him, and for all the garbage containers that are in the alleys now that are encroaching into the alleys on the outside of the residence fences, there's no need for them anymore. So basically what I told him is we'll sit down and they can drive the alleys, get a residence address, send them a letter to remove the stand from the alley so we have more room for snow clearing, grading and that, because they are only 20 feet wide, the majority of them, and the width is a problem. So
I'm just concerned about the thawing out of the garbage personally and what that's going to do to attract animals.
I don't know if council has noticed, but we do appear to have less number of ravens in town since the new system has been in place. I don't know if you see there's not as much garbage spilled around because they can't get into the containers, so it is definitely a good thing.
Excellent. Any other questions? Motion on the floor? All in favor? Carried. Public work. Oh, Michael made the motion. Sorry. Yes. Okay. All right. Public Works report. Councilor Stenhouse, would you like to make a motion?
I would. That council receive the March 2019 Public Works report as presented for information.
All right.
I knew that sounded dangerous.
Vernon. Go ahead, Councillor Stenhouse.
Okay, it's somewhere in my notes here, but I'll just wing it. Gas meters. This
Yeah.
seems to be an ongoing thing. So the town replaces the gas meters. how
Every
often?
7 years.
Every 7.
Yep. It's a law that we have to follow.
Okay. So they're
So with the
they're-
ones we're putting in right now, we're buying brand new because they're very close to the same cost as them refurbished. And actually what Measurement Canada has done is reduced it from 7 years down to 5. So we're buying new and then we're getting 10 years instead of the 5 with the new buying new meters.
And the whole town can't be done
No,
in 1 to 2 years because
we don't have the manpower to do that. Right? So they're on a schedule. We've got it broken down on a computer spreadsheet, and we get so many a year that we have to do. And usually it's between 150 and 200. And it will be ongoing next year too.
After the next 7 years.
Some of our bigger meters have to be done quicker. It's a Measurement Canada thing.
Any other questions or anything else you want to add, Vernon?
Yeah, I think our guys are tired of being gophers this winter. We've been in the ground of several different locations, and it's been a interesting winter.
Go ahead, Councillor Gilbert.
I seem to be giving praise where praise is due and not trying to go beyond that. But I do know that there's some really dedicated waterwork people unfreezing a lot of pipes.
Yes.
And when we've heard them, they have actually been very, very, very busy with a wide number of them. And I appreciate the quality service, we'll call it, and the professionalism in which they serve. We needed it ourselves, actually.
You saw it firsthand.
I saw it firsthand. And so we, as I said, appreciate the way in which they did that.
I will pass that on to them. And it's a problem province-wide. I think people have seen it on the news. It's just one of those years.
I've got a question. Vernon, did they sweep the parking lot for the arena?
Yes.
Oh,
We've started sweeping streets as well.
Yeah.
We had a broken bolt on the conveyor on the sweeper, so it wasn't out today.
Okay.
But it will be back out again as soon as it's
I
fixed.
figured because there was a group of kids playing ball hockey there. I thought that was
Yeah.
awesome. That was great.
They were doing it yesterday, the day before.
Yeah.
You bet. Go ahead, Councillor Long.
A couple of people have asked me about the snow itself, piles of black, sand, salt, all that stuff that is built up on the boulevard and on the front lawns. Is there a plan to go into the bigger piles and bring those out onto the road? Or are we just gonna let that all melt out under?
Usually we let it melt out and then we'll send the trackless down the boulevard and brush the boulevards and sweep it off.
Okay.
Even through the grass and stuff.
Yeah, it takes the dead grass out, gets the boulevards rejuvenated, growing.
Yeah. The ones that I've had comment from are just down from E.W. Pratt or from the elementary school, and not on the sidewalk side, but on
the other side. Yeah.
Just getting the shade, so these just piled all up in there.
Yeah, we've always just traditionally left them melt and then go in and clean up the mess.
Okay.
Excellent. Go ahead, Councillor Gilbert.
Is there any, or actually, could you let us know when they begin the work in front of the junior high? I know that they were going to come back.
It won't be until after the May long weekend. That's when they start the construction season.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
And we are releasing the lagoon tender, the lagoon upgrade tender this week. So that one will be out for bids.
Oh, excellent. Any other questions for Mr. Walker? All right. Thank you, Mr. Walker. All right, I guess we got a motion on the table. All in favor? Carried? All right, minutes. Go Go ahead,
My
Councilor
turn.
Long.
Oh, go ahead.
That council approved the minutes from March 12th, 2019 regular meeting of council as presented.
Any questions
Yes,
or
I have a question.
issues? Oh, here we go. Councilor Stenhouse, go ahead.
10.1, strategic planning meeting.
10.1.
Oh, never mind. It's all good, sorry. That got changed to a budget meeting.
Oh. That was, it was answered in 14.11.
You are correct. Good catch up. Any other questions or corrections or all good? All good. All right, motion on the table. All in favor? Carried. We have a motion for RFD 5.2.
Okay.
All right, Councilor Stenhouse.
The council approved the minutes from the February 19th, 2019 strategic planning meeting as presented.
Questions, corrections? All good? All in favor? Carried. We got 5.3.
5.3.
All right. Motion on 5.3. Go ahead, Councilor Long.
Council approved the minutes of March 19th, 2019 special meeting of council as presented.
Questions, corrections? Oh, go ahead, Councilor Gilroy.
Actually, this is a procedural question, and I guess our treasurer can answer this one because she's probably thinking about it already. We made motion 128/19 to approve an additional amount not exceeding $3,000 to the final 2019 operating budget for the cost of creating a new Town of High Prairie logo, and then two later, 130/19, we actually passed the final operating budget, which did not include the $3,000. I'd like to know what we're supposed to do about that.
Go ahead, Terry.
I noticed that too. So, yes, I did not put it in there before we made that motion. So, council can either make an amendment and add the $3,000 to the expenses, and of course the deficit will be $2,000 more also, or make another motion to add it after the fact. And so your final budget, operating budget, will increase by that $3,000. So it can either amend the motion or make that motion as a new motion, whichever way. But it was not included in the final operating.
Is there a third option of finding it within the council's budget? The budget is aside, so that we're not adding any more expense to the town?
Oh, for sure. If that's what council wants, no problem. I can find it somewhere.
Leave it as is. You have to make a motion for that? Go ahead, Terry.
I did have just a housekeeping thing. In motion 130/19, when the vote was asked to be a recorded vote, there's a column that says abstained, but as you know, the MGA forbids councillors from abstaining, so that column should probably be taken out.
Right.
That's the way it comes up in the system, right?
I think so, yeah.
Well, I guess would abstain be, for example, if you had a conflict of interest? Wouldn't that be an abstention?
No.
Because if you're here at the meeting,
Yeah, if it's conflict of interest, then you wouldn't be here for the vote, period, at all.
but if you're in for the rest of the meeting, no. I'm just trying to think of,
You'd be absent
okay, I just wanted to be consistent
For
there.
that vote.
I think in the format where they come up, the minutes come up like this.
Okay.
For a recorded vote.
But like I said, since it's a forbidden, maybe we should contact AllNet and see if they can tweak their program to have it removed. Because if municipal affairs sees that, they may not like it.
Right.
Okay, Brian, you ready to make a note of that? You're awesome. All right, any other questions or concerns? Motion on the floor, all in favor? Carried? Business arising. New business. 8.1. We get a motion on this. Go ahead, Councillor Gilroy.
So many of us councillors here today.
Well,
That's good. I make a motion that council sponsor the golf carts for the 6th annual Big Lakes Invitational Charity Golf Tournament in the amount of $2,000, as we've done the last couple of years.
whoa. Go ahead, Councillor Stenhouse.
I know we approved the final budget, and my concern was us with our sponsorship and either cutting back on it or almost eliminating it. My thoughts on this is we've asked all the other departments to cut back on their expenses, and this we just did a $15,000 cash infusion into the golf course, and I know this is separate, but this is still the part of the golf course. I would like to see that 2,000, in my point of view, is a little much this year.
Councillor Gilroy.
I'm just wondering if we can get some, at a future meeting maybe, or unless our CAO would know, when they're looking at the 4 charities mentioned here, will it be an equal split this year? Because my problem with this over the last couple of years is we're raising funds for our community, and that's the point, raising funds for our community as opposed to going way out of our community. And with the new dialysis unit, I would like to have seen at least a 25, 25, 25, 25 here.
Okay, Brian's making note. And it's not the golf course. This is a totally separate. This is just a function at the golf course, but it's not. Just so you know, it's not.
Yeah, I know it's not for the golf course, but the point is, we've given away $15,000 to the golf course. We've given $1,000 to the Ukrainian Cultural Society. I can't remember them all. And my point is, we're giving another $2,000. Like I said, I know it's not part of the golf course. And again, some of the comments I've been hearing is we're collecting money from our taxpayers to give to charities. Why can't we let the taxpayers decide which charities they would like to support? And if they really want to support, like, these are very good foundations here mentioned. But if they really believe in supporting the Heart and Stroke and the Stolleries, come out to this golf tournament and support it and personally give your support.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Long?
With I don't think you can get a more deserving organization than the Stolleries. They're a world-class facility, and they do so much for kids in this area. They are our lifeline for our sick kids. But we all know that. I do agree with you on dialysis. I think it would be nice if we had allocated money towards the dialysis. That makes perfect sense to me. But I don't know High Prairie Health Foundation, if they would be.
They're the ones who raise money and give it to.
So that makes. they understand better than any of us what's important and what's needed. And so I'm sure that the monies that are going there, whether it's a 25 split, I don't know, but I'm sure that they'd be looking at dialysis and allocating some of those dollars there. But there's no guarantee. And it's a great fundraiser. It's going to all really good organizations, but is it a 25 split? I don't know.
I have one comment, I guess. Back when it was just, they only had it as the Heart and Stroke Foundation, they had it, I think it was the Stars, wasn't it originally?
The helipad was
The helipad, right? So even then I argued, and they changed it after I said, look, we're struggling as a community in whole. Most of this fundraising, you're doing it and taking it out of the community. That's why then they said, okay, well, let's revisit it. Let's look at some local, that's where the Hyper Health Foundation, and now I see the Swan Hills Hospital Foundation, just mainly because they're also in our community as far as the county, right? So, and they're in need as well. Everybody's in need. But since I was so adamant about that change, I've learned that there's a lot of people in our community immediately that have, especially the Stollery with the children and stuff, and the Heart and Stroke Foundation. Like there's a lot of people in our community that do benefit from those charities that are available to the people, right? They use it, and we're all eventually going to use it, right? At some point in time, but 25, 25, 25 is something that is doable, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's how it went last year.
2 years.
Pretty close.
I believe 2 years ago, the two local ones that gave it to were the food banks. One Highbury Food Bank, the other, and the rest went out because of the timing of their ability, and there's only 10%, but I think they've increased it.
Yeah.
And the only reason I'm asking for 25 minimum is because, yes, Stollery is awesome, Heart Stroke is, but you know what? They have a larger base to get donations from than our hospital does, and that the Swan Hills Hospital does. And so I'm saying, if it's coming in here, let's go for the people, the underdog in a sense, the people who really could use it more. And I believe it's coming out of our advertising budget, is it not? Or does it come out of sponsorship? Okay.
I guess my end comment is I was against it originally because I thought it was just loading up on funds and pulling it out of our community. But since then I've learned that it does affect a lot of people in our community. And so in that case it's a good fundraiser for that particular event, and it's something that is at something that we own. Right, we own the golf course, though we don't look after it. It's still one of our facilities and it's a good event. It really is.
Isn't it by invitation only though?
To a degree, if you sponsor, you can play.
So
a lot of everybody that is there and is involved are paying.
Well, and that was a sort of adjustment to Councillor Stenhouse there.
I'm not denying it's not a good event. My concern is the cutback on our sponsorship.
I totally agree. I totally understand, but this particular one is something that of this, it used to be it was 50-50 on this event with the county. We pulled right back to just this 2,000 and helping out a little bit with some manpower. And they're footing the whole bill now to host it. So it's one part that we can still be involved with and show, especially with the cards. So just so you know. All right. A motion on the table. All in favor? Against? Carried. Sorry, got lost. 9.1, sorry. All right, 9.1, Hyper Traditional Powwow. Do we have a motion Can I get a motion on the table, please? Go ahead, Councilor Long.
Council approved the High Prairie Aboriginal Interagency request for $2,000 fifth annual traditional powwow.
Councilor Stenhouse.
Okay,
Yeah, this is we're gonna get beat up here all day.
yeah. Okay, so I just want to be very clear before we vote on this motion. Do we not give free rent to this event for using the Sports Palace? In lieu of on page 57, if you look at their chart, it says the High Prairie Sports Palace refundable deposit of $2,500 and the High Prairie Sports Palace rental of $1,000. Now, are they paying that, or are we giving that as in-kind sponsorship?
Okay.
Good question, Councilor Gilroy.
This is the list of their expenses. So technically, the sports rental would be $1,000, and it would look like the refundable deposit would be your damage deposit.
Yeah, that's all that.
So technically, if we were to give them free space, it would be $1,000. If we were to, put just pay for their space that day, obviously they're asking for about $1,000. How I read it.
Okay, so that is my question. Are we giving them the free rental worth $1,000?
They're paying for it right now.
Can you speak to that, Brian?
All we're giving them is the $2,000, so whatever they spend it on, that's up to them. Whether it's to their rental or to the paying of the drummers or whoever, so. Okay. I know before for the Treaty 8, council had sponsored them as an example, but it went to the ice rental, went to the recreation board for ice rental, so that they couldn't be buying jackets for the winning team or whatever. It went to a specific thing. So if you want in the motion, you can direct administration to put it towards one of the items as the rental, or if you so wish, so, or just the donation of $2,000 to the function.
I just want to be very clear that we're not giving free rental plus a cash infusion.
Very good. No, I appreciate that.
Good question.
Oh, go ahead, Terry.
Just to note that on page 55, it says that they are to provide a budget with revenue and expenses for the project, and it says attached, but this is only showing the expenses. It's not showing the revenues. We have no idea what the revenues are.
Or Councilor Long.
Being that it's a powwow, they're free. There's no revenue from that, but I don't know if Cookham's Wagon or some of the other food wagons that go up there, I don't know if they pay to the function, but I know that that it's open to everybody and anybody, so for free.
Councilor Gilroy.
Having been at a number of their meetings, traditionally they don't get a lot of extra funding for these things. They do depend upon donations mostly, and I do know that even when they did the round dance, they sent brochures everywhere, but to the county, to the town, to the different settlements, the different councils, tribal councils. They sent it everywhere, and they worked very hard on this. Unofficially, I can't say too much because I do go to their meetings, but I'm not officially part of this because I don't represent the town in a particular way. But it is a very, they will also be, if I'm not mistaken, they will also be asking us later on for our mayor and for our flag for the opening. And we were in their calendar, a calendar that was distributed, and that they will be possibly looking at another way of doing that. So there is, as Councillor Courtney would say, value in this.
Okay, you go. Yeah, go ahead. Let's hear you one more time. Councillor Stenhouse.
Can this come out of FCSS fund?
Good question. Any other questions or comments?
Technically, I guess this is a $1,000 donation, really.
How?
Technically, it's a $1,000 donation because we're giving $1,000 to the rec department for the rental. So technically, it's really only like a $1,000 donation because we're getting it back through a different department. Wouldn't that be?
No, that confuses my original question.
You're right.
And $1,000 from the rec or $1,000 from the town still is $2,000 from the ratepayers. No matter which way you look
we
at it.
recover $1,000 for the rental of the arena. We
But
give them $2,000, but we recover $1,000 for the rental of the arena. So it's really only because they're paying for the arena. We're not giving it to them for free. They're going to pay us $1,000 for that event.
All right, any other questions, comments? Motion on the table. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Nine 9.2, financial report. We have a motion, please. Go ahead, Councillor Stenhouse.
That council received the financial report for February 2019 as presented for information.
Any questions or comments?
The budget having been approved, I've got staff already inputting the budget into MuniWare. So your next report in March will have the comparative, so it'll be a little bit easier to see. Like right now, because January, February, we didn't have the budget approved, I couldn't put anything in there. It makes it look a little bit strange when it's just sitting by itself like that with no comparatives. So far though, everything seems to be about similar to last year, so I don't see any concerns or anything else for February. March we'll be able to tell a little bit more.
Okay, I did not print it off, so I don't have it.
I've got it from last week.
I'm just being honest, I don't have it here. So. I'm not allowed to print it off at the office. I was told. Any other questions for Terry? Nothing? All right, motion on the floor. All in favor? Carried? Motion amended. Motion amendment, sorry. Too many M's. Do we have a motion available, please? Go ahead, Councillor Long.
Council approves replacement of the existing lighting at the Aquatic Center in the amount of $21,750 from reserves.
Questions? Go ahead, Councillor Gilroy.
I can talk to the confusion of the original one because I've got it right here. I printed it off because I'm allowed to at the office.
Good.
The High Prairie and District Regional Recreation Board applied for funding through the Energy Efficiency Alberta Business Nonprofit and Institutional Energy, or BNI, Savings Program to change the current lighting to LED in the High Prairie Regional Aquatic Center, the Sports Palace Arena, or Sports Palace Arena, and the Gordon Buchanan Recreation Center. And it goes on to say there have been some delays in the application review and pre-approval process due to the program being oversubscribed. Laurie Matthews has been in frequent contact with a program account manager to expedite the Aquatic Center project application in hopes that an answer would be made prior to the annual pool shutdown. A pre-approved rebate through BNI Savings Program funding was approved November 2nd, 2018 in the amount of $9,534 for the Aquatic Center project. So we had, the original one, we had thought it was all three, but the extra wording in here suggests that that large amount of money was strictly for the Aquatic Center. And I think that's why you're bringing it forward. So I'll leave that up for your sort of discussion. But that's how we came up, that's why I came up with the motion I had, was because I'm going to make the motion that I thought it was for all three places, and I wanted to make sure that Big Lakes County was also approving the release. That's what the original motion was all about.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Any other questions or concerns? Motion on the floor, all in favor? Opposed?
I'm sorry.
What's that?
What are you doing?
I was looking, sorry.
Can we take the vote again? She was
Yes.
looking.
Okay, can we,
Yeah, I guess we can. Can you do that? Can you re-vote? All right. Motion on the floor, all in favor? Opposed? Defeated.
Who's paying the vendor?
say what?
Who's paying the vendor?
Because
It's already been done.
The motion has,
Didn't we had a big discussion on this.
Turn your mic on.
We had a big discussion on this when this first come through. That this was to include all three places.
Go ahead, Brian.
she didn't get approval of all three places. She only got approved for the Aquatic Center. Funding for the Aquatic Center, or the grant for the funding.
Of 9,000,
So did it cost 9,534 or 21,000?
50,000.
I would assume it was
Yeah.
42 plus the 951. Is that would be correct?
Okay, so let me get this straight.
Should ask more questions. Sorry about that. I thought everybody was understanding it was already done.
I thought we were voting to see if we're gonna replace the lighting at.
It's done. We're just redoing the wording to pay for it.
And on the original motion, we had accepted it, that we were going to do this lighting at 21.
We did.
For all three buildings.
For all three buildings, but only the grant come through for
The Aquatic Center.
the Aquatic Center. That was if we could get a grant for all three. Correct? Am I correct on that?
That is correct. So,
We need a new motion of some sort.
That motion, the last one, I guess it's defeated because it's tied vote.
that is correct.
So somebody can make another motion then. Can you make the same motion again?
I've never come across this, so I don't know.
Was that me? Can I be fired?
No, you got the chair. That's me.
So, I guess the end result is, because the lights have been changed, the contractor needs to be paid, and this is how we pay them. So if we don't approve this motion, I guess we should have elaborated on that earlier, then they don't get paid. Because the lights have been changed. Everything's been done, we've got the grant. It's just the wording, and that's why it says that. It's a motion amendment to change the wording.
One down.
not gonna ask
Could
you.
you help out? Could you, cause. Can we have more discussion on this?
You have to make a motion to discuss it again.
You have to make a motion, yes, correct,
We need to have a motion on the floor where we discuss this.
that's correct.
Can you come on, somebody make a motion?
Go ahead,
You guys got us here. We gotta
make a motion, go ahead.
No, we didn't, I was under the understanding that was all three broken.
we make mistakes.
It's all right.
That wasn't in the original motion, even back in the, at the previous meeting. That this motion was made.
Go ahead,
for
make a
Amy
motion.
Vicky.
Go ahead, Counselor Long.
I'm gonna revisit it and then we can figure out.
Go ahead, yep.
That council approves the replacement of the existing lighting at the aquatic center in the amount of $21,750 to be taken from reserves.
Now you can discuss it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Counselor Steno.
Okay, so we got a grant of 9,000.
Correct.
We did we or did we not get this 9,000? We have 9,000, okay. So that 9,000 should come out of that 21,000?
Yes.
Well, half of it, right?
Oh.
Okay.
Councilor Gilroy has a question.
Go ahead, Counselor Gilroy.
I believe the way it works is the total amount was about $51,000, and they've already taken off the 9,000, divided it between the county and the town, and they divided the remaining amount between the town and between the county and the town. And so the 21,000 is going to be the 21,000. My objection to this is I'm getting a rather, how can I say this nicely? I'm getting a little tired of having the work done and then the amount coming to council and having the stuff approved and being forced to approve it because the work's already done. And one example is the plaque at the hospital, and now this, and other ones. Like, aren't we supposed to approve the stuff before it's even done? And if this was the motion and we had, and everything was contingent here, then this should have been brought up before the work was done. I really do not like being forced to say yes to something when the stuff's already been committed or already been paid for, and then, as you just said, well, who's going to pay the contractor? That's not fair to this council to then tell us that. If the original motion was not sufficient, we should have changed it before the work was done.
Mm-hmm.
But
Go ahead, Counselor Long.
None of you are wrong. It's the fact of the matter is now, though, we either force our CAO to sit down with Recreation to say, where is this money coming from? Or we pass this motion.
I think I'll comment. I think if I'm not mistaken, in order to get the grant, you had to have the project on route or installing them in order to get the grant. You couldn't just say, this is our wish and apply for a grant. You physically had to have all the lighting, the contractor, and doing the work already in order to get the grant. And the grant value was uncertain, I think, the value. Right? If I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong.
According to this, before it came to council, it was a pre-approved rebate. It was not contingent. It was a pre-approved rebate before it was even brought to council the first time, according to November 13th agenda, which this whole thing is based on. In fact, we even have the email that says, congratulations, Laura Matthews, we are pleased to inform you that your business energy savings application has been pre-approved. So it was pre-approved in the November 13th agenda before we even voted originally on this.
Do you have a copy of the original?
This is
No.
taken.
I know on the RFD, you have a copy of the original motion that I suggested that council make.
The option, yeah, you had, this is the whole package you had for that day, and yes, the original one was that the town of High Prairie, the options given, town of High Prairie released from capital reserves the amount of $21,750 to replace the existing lighting at the aquatic center. And it talked about the source of funding and all the rest, but still, if you were so insistent upon this, how did we end up getting the motion through that we came up with?
I wasn't here, I was on holidays hunting, but that's why I knew it only, the time that I made the agenda, it only reflected the aquatic center and the funding, so. I wasn't aware until Terry brought it up to my attention when it went time to pay the contractors.
Councilor Gilroy?
Yeah. I will change my vote when we vote again and vote for it, only because I do not want our town to be embarrassed. But I will object once again that if we're going to get things done, let's get it done right the first time, and I do not want to see this to be a continual thing where after something's done, then we're asked to pay extra money. Okay, I want this stuff beforehand so we can feel free to vote the way we want to vote. Okay?
Councilor Stenhouse?
I have to echo that too and have to agree that we've got to pay our bills, but I am not pleased on how this was handled either. I remember having this discussion, and I remember having my figures about spending this kind of money to save $4,000, and I remember voting against it, unless it included all three. So I will also vote against what I believe, or vote against what I believe, and I will support this motion to get our bills paid.
All right, we have a motion on the floor now. Let's, all in favor? Carried. Go ahead, Councilor Long.
Just a suggestion to our CEO, maybe just double check on the proper process for motions that have been defeated and brought back.
I don't know.
Should be okay, but I'm pretty sure that the right way to go is that it should be okay.
In all fairness, I hadn't given Councilor Stenhouse enough time to question. She had a question there. So I don't know how you want to lay that out or say that. Being the chairs. Okay. 9.4, financial report, December 2018. Do we have a motion? Go ahead, Councilor Long. Council received the updated financial report for December 2018 and presented for information. Go ahead, Terry.
This one looks pretty. If you look at each department, I was quite pleased with the numbers. Of course, the auditors are currently going over everything to finalize the fine-tune stuff, but every department is pretty darn close to budget. I was quite happy when I saw the end result. So if council has any questions that I didn't already mark down, please go ahead.
Any questions? No questions? All right, all in favor? Carried. Good job. Thank you. Administration 10.1 bylaw 06/2019 nuisance and unsightly premises removal of vehicle carts from municipal property. You have a motion on the floor. Go ahead, Councilor Stenhouse.
That council give first reading to bylaw 06/2019 nuisance and unsightly premises bylaw this 26th day of March 2019.
Questions? Councillor Gilroy.
As we dealt with this at a bylaw meeting, I'll just point out that page 76 is the real change here. No person shall allow a waste receptacle to remain on municipal property, which is a roadway, boulevard, alleyway, or sidewalk for more than 24 hours following pickup day, commencing at 7 p.m. the following day of pickup enforcement. Pickup enforcement can take place. Okay, so commencing the next evening at 7 p.m. And that's one of the changes we made. And we made it because we were also told that apparently the contract is that they will always pick up on the Monday. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that we won't be flipping days back and forth.
All right. For those that have that luxury, that's good.
And for Arlen, it's 10 minutes now.
I do. I need a hug. All right. Any other questions or comments on this? Oh, Councillor Stenhouse.
So are we doing a good job at advertising this? When those bins were dropped out, this is just a new bylaw that we're introducing, right?
This one? No, this is
No.
part of an old bylaw.
We're just adjusting.
It's just an amendment to that bylaw.
So again, it's advertise, educate, get those bins off the street.
Well, it's for their benefit as well. One of the other reasons we also said it was because the longer they stay out there, you never know if someone's going to hit it, and then the owner is responsible for, what, $100 one? So we're trying to protect the community as well as the individual.
Okay.
It was more of a problem in the wintertime as people were leaving them out, and then we had snow removal and the grader, every time the grader drew down, you'd have to bob around them and leave a snow ridge, so.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Motion on the floor. All in favor? Carried. Next motion. Councillor Long. Council gives second reading to bylaw 06-2019 nuisance and unsightly premises bylaw this 26th day of March 2019. Any other concerns, comments, questions? No? All in favor? Carried. Any other motions?
I'll let you do one, Alan.
No, I'm just sitting, I'm just watching. You guys are awesome. Councillor Gilroy.
The council give unanimous consent to proceed with third and final reading to bylaw 06-2019, the nuisance and unsightly premises bylaw, this 26th day of March 2019.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? No? No hands up. All in favor? Carried.
Did you want it, Arlen?
I can if you want. Sure. I'll
Michael's
give it a whirl.
one like this, though.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, Michael likes garbage.
All right. Okay, the council give third and final reading to bylaw 06-2019 nuisance and unsightly premises bylaw this 26th day of March 2019. All in favor? Carried.
I thought he was going to put the addendum that he wanted his garbage picked up too.
Well, that's coming later. I'm going to take out the trash.
Good job, Aaron. You got it
Where
at least we got one done.
10.2, one by less.
Ooh.
10.2? All right.
That's one we got with tonight in the public hearing. This
Right.
one here.
Okay, 10.2. Do we have a motion? Somebody else get a motion? Councillor Gilroy.
The council gives second reading to bylaw 02-2019 this 26th day of March 2019 to provide clarity and consistency of the bylaw. Shouldn't I have actually said the amendments to land use bylaw as well?
No.
I didn't have to say it? Okay.
Did we already give it
Just
first
the
reading?
bylaw number. Okay.
Go ahead, Brian.
Just let council know, I talked to Alicia after the public hearing, and she said council can give the 3 readings to the bylaw to get all the other amendments and the changes and that continued. And what I basically talked to her is to try to find a common ground to basically pacify Sheila and the town council with
A compromise.
the agent out of the trailers to come in. So when I talked to Sheila, I said it wasn't a matter of your trailers I'm worried about. It could be the impact of somebody else coming into the town. Your trailers may be fixed up good, but then once when the bylaw is passed, then that opens it up for anybody to bring any kind of trailer into town, as long as it meets them standards. So it could be dilapidated, something, you know, that's not said. But I think we can go forward and find something and bring it back to council with a further amendment later on.
Okay, so do we need to vote on this, I guess, and then
Make another motion. Yeah.
all right. Okay, motion on the floor, all in favor? Carried. We have another motion.
So are you recommending that we go to option 2, read that, or to?
Give it all 3 readings.
Yeah.
And then she said if there is an amendment where I can bring some more information back to council at a future meeting, that we can amend the land use bylaw again.
Do we have to go through the same procedure though, public hearings?
No. It'll be common ground so that I told Sheila that we'd keep her in the loop of what council's decision.
Sure.
It's just to look at, for council, look at other options.
I just don't want to go through the whole process again.
We would have to.
And because
Yeah.
it's still a business in our community that's it affects directly. Like it's and we should be somewhat. I understand what we're trying to do, but on the other hand, they're a business that wants to be in our community, right? So we want to work with them enough to make it fair. But on the other hand, again, we want it aesthetically nice, and we don't want that to happen again. That was down by.
Let's leave it at the second reading.
Okay.
Recommendation of council, and then I'll bring it back at the next council meeting.
For the third fund.
Yep.
Okay.
That's fair. Okay. Do we have to have a motion for that to bring it back? No? Okay. Did we vote on it? We didn't vote on it.
We did vote on the second one.
Moving right along. 15-1. You want to have a break, or what do you want to do? Will we usually have a break?
Well, actually, since there's only 4 of us, can we just go through these 2, take a break? Because I think there's an in-camera after this. So why don't we take a break after the in-camera?
Or before the
I don't smoke, so let's.
Okay.
We can keep hammering through.
I'll do Vern here.
All right, 13.1, CAO's action list. We have a motion. Councillor Long.
Council received the CAO Brian Martinson's report and action list for information.
Thank you. Mr. Brian Martinson.
Vern informed me that there was some surveyors or line locators out in the Tim Hortons site this afternoon. So Marion and I had been talking with Gord Drummond within the last 2 weeks, and he basically figures that the engineers have over-designed the pad, whatever, for the building to sit on. So I told him that we had helped Mr. Joe Courtley, had the same problem when he was designing his truck shop out on the west end. So I told him we give him the plans to our existing water plant design to his engineers, and I suggested to Gord that we could do the same. I also understand that they have to install a fire hydrant on the site that Tim Horton sits on, and in discussions with our fire chief, Mr. Melnick, that it's only a difference of half a length of hose difference. So he was gonna go back to the people at Tim Hortons and see if they could waive that portion of it. So I didn't see a need in the hydrant right there. And they're according to their plans, they're supposed to be going out into the street to increase the water line going into the service the building, so it can be sprinkler system installed. So that's just all extra cost. So every time we got to go into the street, it's probably another $15,000 that they're adding on to the development. And Gord, and I can tell you this because Mary and I said the town has been a great help, and you know, we've been trying to. I told him again. I said we want to see this development going here, so whatever we can do to help out. So
now, go ahead, Councilor. Now, is this going to be something that we're going to be running into with other developments like Husky and others, where they're going to need to go under and have lines done so they can have sprinkler systems as well, or is this?
I don't know. That could be something from Tim Hortons themselves. So,
Yeah.
A spec from their buildings.
Holy, Vernon. Vernon has a question. Go ahead.
I just woke up. When the PB Mart was broke, they built the building under the size, so they did not have to go sprinkler system there, just under the regulated requirement. So it all depends on the size of the building.
So then this is.
Or the spec from the sister company. So.
Yeah.
The building for the Tim Hortons is smaller than the PB Mart, so sure.
What? Excellent. Any other questions? Concerns?
Yeah.
Councilor Gilroy. Did you have his hand up?
Yep.
You did.
Okay. Actually, I was going to ask, since Councilor Long brought it up, any news on the other main development of Husky or other potential ones? Because I know that we are trying to encourage people to use even the land that we just reclaimed for projects. So to let people know we are open for business that way. How's that project coming?
Husky is no.
Good.
And Northern Lakes College.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Oh, Northern Lakes College. Husky.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Councilor Stenhouse.
Since we're on the topic of mobile homes and bylaws, how are we doing with those mobile homes on the other side of town?
The ones you've been trying to sell?
Or give away?
Or give away? The ones that are no good that they're trying to just get out
I
of town.
had a phone call today on that actually, and I'll be bringing back a offer to council. So it'll be coming forward.
Excellent. Any other questions, concerns? No? Yeah, you got beat up pretty good there. That's good. Even stuff
If you'd like, we can think of some more right now.
All right. Motion on the floor. All in favor? Carried. Yeah, I guess so. Sure. Need a motion. Do we need a motion for that?
No.
Just
Just
going
have
to do it,
to
don't we?
ask the report from each one.
Councilor Danak is out here. Councilor Gilroy.
Actually, the highlight, I guess, of since the last meeting, which is about a week ago, actually was attending the delayed but official 40th anniversary of the High Prairie Native Friendship Center. It was a real, a wonderful time. And the mayor did a great job representing us, as well as the just being able to show support to our Métis and our First Nation people, and hearing some of their history, and actually seeing a fashion show. I stayed away from the cake, but the bannock and the stew was really good as well. I'm very, very happy with all the cakes. In fact, they even had the original founders there. The two people that started it and one original staff member from 40 years ago. And so I think it was a very good thing, and I'm glad that they are meeting a need in our community. I move my verbal report for information.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Councillor Long.
Nothing to report. Last meeting that we had was the airport authority, so we talked about that in the last meeting. So.
Okay, thank you. Didn't even have a report. You want to vote on it?
report?
Okay, just checking. I am next. I have no report. Councillor Stenhouse.
And I also have no report.
That was quick and easy. All right.
Can I make a motion we take a break? To go on camera in a few minutes? Well,
Okay.
motion first.
No, you don't have to make a motion for a break.
I want a break.
Oh, what time?
You got motion, he made motion to go into camera. You want to,
Well-
do you have to make a motion to take break first?
Yeah,
And then
let's
come
take a
back
break
and
and then we'll make the motion.
Okay.
How about if we go in camera in 10 minutes or so like that?
Fine.
You made motion.
He told me to make the motion.
Okay, I'll call it break.
I just want to go for break.
Break.
Yeah, he knew.
What if we vote on a break and we say